Play Nice: The Rise, Fall, and Future of Blizzard Entertainment is the latest book from noted video game journalist Jason Schreier. And over the course of 31 chapters, it walks us through the story of one of the most prominent video game developers of all time. The history of Blizzard Entertainment is available on the internet for free. So why should you spend your hard-earned money to buy a book that narrates the same story? That's where Jason's experience in being a video game journalist comes in handy. He tells us the story that we have known for years, but adds in some interesting tidbits that give a bit more context to some important events. I have not made a video review of a book before, so I don't know what exactly you, as a viewer, would be interested to learn. With nothing more than a guess, I have split the video into different sections. The first talks about the story itself. It gives a summary of Blizzard's history as told through the book. The second section talks about the book, how it is written, and whether it can hold your interest till the end. The short answers to these questions, by the way, is that the book is written quite well, but don't expect to fall in love with the prose or anything like that. I found myself interested enough to keep going and never felt like I was getting bored. More on this in the section talking about the book. The third and final section talks about the relevance of this book on the industry as it exists today. That's more of my opinion on the topic, so I won't try to summarize it here. Feel free to skip that section if you want. Also, I wasn't sure what footage to show throughout the review, so it's just a random bunch of trailers of various Blizzard games. You can completely ignore the video footage and listen to this review like a podcast, and you won't miss anything. That said, let's get into the review. If there's one thing I learned from this book about Blizzard's history, it's that the company is like a star athlete who has had a long line of bad managers, each one worse than the last. Blizzard was founded in 1991 with the name Silicon and Synapse, and just like most other video game studios of the time, the early days were spent doing contract work for other companies while simultaneously trying to make original games that would hopefully become their first hit. Blizzard's early games were successful enough to keep the company alive, but they were not exactly blockbuster hits. Sadly, before the company could find its footing in the industry, it was sold, setting in motion a chain of events where Blizzard would bounce from one parent company to another, most of whom never really knew what to do with Blizzard. The first sale was to Davidson and Associates in 1994, the same year that the company released Warcraft: Orcs and Humans. Looking back, it might be easy to say, oh, if only they had not sold the company and waited till Warcraft had come out, maybe things would have been different. But this was 1994. Making video games was not as easy as using a free game engine and then paying $100 to Steam to distribute your game worldwide. The founders knew that for the company to survive and for Warcraft to have a chance at becoming a hit, they needed more funds. Besides, the offer they were getting from Davidson and Associates would make them millionaires overnight, a proposition that very few of us can turn down. And so, Blizzard lost its independence, released Warcraft, and things started looking good for a while. Between 1994 and 1998, Blizzard released Warcraft: Orcs and Humans, Warcraft 2: Tides of Darkness, Diablo, and StarCraft. This rapid release of industry-defining hits cemented Blizzard's reputation as one of the best game studios of the time. Behind the scenes, Blizzard's ownership was changing hands repeatedly. I won't go into the details, but there's a link to a Wikipedia article in the description if you want to follow the trail. Eventually, Blizzard ended up in the hands of a company called Vivendi, who mostly let them do what they wanted, but was also ultimately responsible for Blizzard getting merged with Activision. Speeding up things a bit here, Blizzard released the mega hit MMO World of Warcraft, which was inspired by the success of another MMO called EverQuest. Later, Vivendi merged the company with Activision, creating a new entity called Activision Blizzard. For a while, it was business as usual, but after Blizzard cancelled a huge project called Titan, resulting in a loss of $80 million, Activision's CEO Bobby Kotick started pushing for more control over how Blizzard conducted its business. Overwatch came out in 2016, briefly becoming a cultural phenomenon before being overshadowed by Fortnite in 2017. Activision's own Call of Duty franchise kept churning out multi-million-dollar hits on a yearly basis, so there was constant pressure on Blizzard to do the same. But Blizzard had rarely released new games at that speed. This culture clash between the two companies eventually resulted in a lot of employees leaving Blizzard. However, that was not the only reason. Since its inception in 1991, Blizzard had always been what the author calls a boys' club. There were very few women employees, and the ones who were there were treated quite badly. After the company found great success and hired hundreds of employees, the harassment of female employees also grew considerably. Eventually, a lawsuit was filed against Activision Blizzard for the many instances of sexual harassment at the company, and this was one of the reasons which gave rise to the record-breaking sale of the company to Microsoft in 2022. Microsoft was expected to be a better corporate parent than Blizzard, but so far, what they have done is to lay off hundreds of employees within a year of taking control. Blizzard's recent releases have drummed up decent business, but they are a far cry from being the blockbuster hits that the company used to release. As of today, Blizzard is still an important part of the video game ecosystem, with many of its franchises still commanding a huge audience. Since the company's story under Microsoft has just begun, we'll have to wait and see what twists and turns lie in wait for the company in this new chapter. Now let us talk about the book itself. If you are familiar with Jason's work, you already know what to expect. His first book, Blood, Sweat and Pixels, contained 10 stories, each tackling the development of a notable video game. His second book, Press Reset, contained 9 chapters, this time talking about video game companies rather than individual games. Play Nice contains 31 chapters and focuses on a single company. So, if you have read either of Jason's earlier books and wished that you could read more of a certain chapter, this book delivers exactly that. To his credit, Jason keeps the pace just right. I was able to finish the book without ever feeling like I wanted to stop and never start again. The structure of the book is similar to that of Blood, Sweat and Pixels, in that most of the time each individual chapter deals with the development of one game. This can sometimes make the narrative a bit messy. For instance, in the chapter about the creation of the Overwatch League, the story stops with the creation of the league and then moves on to other events before finally catching up to the closure of the league 2 or 3 chapters later. The first section of the book, detailing the early history of Blizzard, was definitely my favorite because stories from the 90s didn't always get wide coverage in the press or on the internet. The other 2 sections of the book, covering the story from the 2000s till the present, consist of events that have played out in front of the entire world. So what kept those chapters interesting was getting some more insight from the developers on why those events happened the way they did. At a little over 350 pages, it's not a huge book. If you get the audiobook version, you can finish it in less than 10 hours or even faster if you like listening at higher speeds. At the time of recording, the paperback version is not available yet. This is an old, annoying habit of the book publishing industry where the paperback is usually released a few weeks or months later so that the more expensive hardcover books are sold first. I wish, at least in markets like India, the publisher could have chosen to release the paperback at launch because I don't think a lot of people are going to pay 2100 rupees for a hardcover book about Blizzard Entertainment. But that's just a guess. I got the audiobook version for this review and I am looking forward to getting the paperback when it launches. The common theme throughout the history of the company was that Blizzard was just like any other corporation. It made its executives rich while the employees who did all the grunt work oftentimes struggled to pay their bills. To anyone who has spent time reading up case studies of companies across different industries, this may feel very ordinary. Why write an entire book about what is considered to be normal corporate behavior? I feel books like these are important to shed some light on what is still a very young industry. Blizzard is just one among many video game companies where employees have been treated poorly. I can't even imagine how long a book about Electronic Arts or Activision would be if its employees gave detailed interviews about their history. Thankfully, conversations around this topic are starting to become common, and we can hope to see some change in these giant studios in the near future. And even if we get one such book every decade, it will remind us that the companies which make the games that we love are full of people just like us, and they deserve to be treated well so that they are then motivated to give us even better games. That's pretty much it. If you think you'd be interested in reading this book, you can find a link to the Amazon page in the description. Do note that it is an affiliate link, so I may receive a small commission if you buy the book using this link. If you have anything you want to say about Blizzard or the topic of how game developers are treated in general, feel free to leave a comment. Thanks for watching.